I'm not the most expensive Feng Shui consultant out there. I'm also not the cheapest. It is an investment. I've been training a lot and I'm asking a lot of very detailed questions when I'm going
Yeah.
to see my clients. But because of the type of work that I do, there are things in your life that will change. I've got a philosophy that there's never a wrong step. There's merely the longer path. And
Mhm.
sometimes the longer path is the most interesting.
Joining me today is Beverly Biehl, and she is a Feng Shui consultant. So, Beverly, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Miranda. I appreciate you having me.
Of course. So, let's go ahead and get started. Beverly, can you explain what is it exactly that you do?
So, Feng Shui is a philosophy of placement, essentially how energy moves, that started in China anywhere between 5 and 6,000 years ago. The
Wow.
general philosophy, first of all, Feng Shui translates to wind and water. It's a way of evaluating a space from observing how energy is moving, both in a tangible way, like the way the furniture is placed, the colors are on the that are on the wall, artwork, etc. That's the tangible water piece, but there's also the intangible piece, the wind, because you can't see the wind, but you can feel the effects of it. And so that is more a way of like say looking at a blueprint and seeing, okay, there's a very long hallway here. That's a lot of fast moving energy.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the rooms on the other side? Also, what happens when you walk into a place? Does it feel comforting? Does it evoke an emotion when you walk in? Or is it someplace that you feel comfortable, that you could more serene? That's why many people, depending on what they need at the time, they will go to a coffee
Mm-hmm.
shop to study because
Oh,
there's a lot of activity. They need
right.
the swirl in order to help them focus, but other people are too distractible and they need the quiet, that very yin
Yeah.
energy of a library or another study room. So that's more of the how that works for the intangible piece.
Very interesting. So now how did you get into this career path? How did you get your start in it and why?
When I was 36, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Okay.
And when I finished with all of the treatments, one of my neighbors gave me a book on feng shui as a way to help my house heal me. I thought that was an interesting
Mm-hmm.
gift. But when you go through something like that and you have no family history and there's no real understanding of, well,
Wow.
why did this happen? You begin
Yeah.
grasping for straws because you want things to make sense somehow, and when they
Yeah.
don't, uh, yeah, start grasping. Um, what I found was when I started following some of the suggestions in the book that coincidences began happening pretty consistently. And I thought, uh-oh, there's something here. My hyper logical and analytical brain was very skeptical,
Right.
but then I also was very intrigued and I thought, okay, let's explore some more. And so that's when I started taking courses. Um, I learned better with actual humans, with face to face.
Right.
And so I was able to take some in-person training courses with a variety of teachers. I believe at this point I've now studied with 9 or 10. I'd have to go back and recount. Um,
Wow.
different teachers, just because every instructor has a different way of explaining things. And every time, even if it's basic stuff, I still gain new knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's how I got started. And I began my feng shui career back in 2004, so just a couple of
Okay.
years after I had the cancer diagnosis, and just 1 year after I got the book, because again, it was just like, okay, this is cool. This is really fascinating me.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so now, what parts of your job do you think are the most exciting or the most interesting to you?
When the most interesting part of my job truly is connecting with the clients to find out,
Hmm.
well, what have their experiences with feng shui been in the past? Um, and then looking at how their house is trying to communicate with them. One of the
Okay.
most fascinating things that I find with my job is when I go into a person's home, and so let me just use this as an example. One client hired me as a last ditch effort before she filed for divorce.
Oh, wow.
And when I started looking at her home, I noticed that her personality was really only present in one little room with a couple of throw pillows. Everything else in the house was his stuff. There
Yeah.
was like, I think, one wedding picture, um,
Mhm.
but otherwise she didn't exist in that space. And when I
Okay.
pointed this out to her, it's like, this is what your home has been trying to communicate to you.
Hmm.
Um, Using the language of feng shui, um, I was able to help her see this is what was happening, and encouraged her to have a hard conversation with her husband, to say, look, this is what's going on. A couple of months later, I didn't hear anything. And so, of course, I'm biting my nails like, I
Yeah.
hope everything's okay. They had just gotten back from their second honeymoon. And
Wow.
they, because she realized what she had done, she was doing everything possible to make him happy.
Yeah.
And he was unhappy because he was wanting to make her happy. And so neither were happy. And so again,
Interesting.
sometimes it's really just about a matter of helping them to understand,
Yeah.
again, what your home is trying to say to you.
Oh. And now on the flip side, what
Okay.
parts of the job are harder, emotionally challenging, or maybe just boring?
I don't believe there's anything in my job that is boring.
Okay.
But probably the most challenging aspect is, again, finding clients. And I think
Yeah.
anybody who is working for themselves in any capacity, there's a level of marketing that and communication that you have to figure out the right messaging to find
Hmm.
people who are ready for something like this at the right time. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not the most expensive feng shui consultant out there. I'm also not the cheapest. It is an investment because it is, I've been training a lot, and I'm asking a lot of very detailed questions when I'm going
Yeah.
to see my clients. But because of the type of work that I do, there are things in your life that will change. And if people are not ready for change, even if it's going from a place of discomfort into
Hmm.
more ease, sometimes people get really used to that discomfort.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I don't know. I've always been doing it this way. That means I have to change. And, we all know
Yeah.
that change can be really good, but it can also be a challenge.
Yeah. And so, what do you think that people might underestimate or overestimate about this job?
A little bit of both. I think people underestimate and overestimate what this philosophy can
Hmm.
do. Um, I have had some, like I mentioned about that, the woman who was just the last ditch effort for her marriage.
Yeah.
Um, I think she was underestimating the power of just having another set of eyes to come in and take a look at the
Yeah.
situation. But I've also had clients who, in fact, I had one guy who was really angry that um, he didn't suddenly become ultra wealthy as soon as we worked together. And I'm like,
Mm. Okay.
I can help clear some pathways. I can clear some roadblocks. But I'm not a miracle worker. You have to actually, get the
Yeah.
education you need to do the job that you think you're owed. And sometimes that does happen. For me, I do try to help people manage their expectations,
Okay.
because again, what I do does have it creates a lot of coincidences, but sometimes those coincidences go unnoticed if you're not ready for them, or if you haven't built up the capacity in order to capitalize on them. So again, if somebody people often hire me when they're looking for work, I will give them a certain list of things to look at in their space.
Hmm.
Um, but if they don't have the resume ready, if they haven't completed their degree, if they haven't,
Yeah.
done all the other things that need to be done in order to capitalize on an opportunity, it's going to go by. So,
Yeah.
it's a partnership.
Yeah. But again, you're not a miracle worker.
I wish I was. Sometimes really cool things happen, but no,
Yeah.
I open the space for the miracle to come through.
Yeah.
But just like, when somebody's playing catch, yes, some people, the other person has to have their catcher's mitt.
Mitt on.
I can't even talk anymore.
Okay, so we talked about how people come to you for employment. The other lady came to you because of her marriage. Are these considered specialties? Can you specialize when you're a feng shui consultant? How does that work?
As an entrepreneur, every feng shui consultant has their own business. So
Okay.
you do get to pick where you want to work. I have some friends who specialize just with working with businesses,
Hmm.
and making sure that the physical space of, a commercial space is set up properly.
Okay.
There are some who are primarily focusing on relationships. I personally think that because, okay, so feng shui has 9 sectors in a space, and each
Okay.
of these sectors corresponds with a different aspect of life. I personally, because of the health issue that really led me to discover this passion, I love working with people to make sure that the center section, which is the health section, the balance section, that is the strongest hub. That is because it's like a tire, like a wheel. If the
Yeah.
hub is broken, all the other spokes fall apart. You can limp along if something else is out of balance. But if that hub is broken, if you don't have a good physical health, mental health, financial health, spiritual
Hmm.
health, those are the components of being able to maintain balance, being able to stay grounded, and not having the propensity to get just swept away in the rushing of life.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now, who do you think are some of the biggest employers of this industry? Another way I kind of like to ask this question is what companies look for feng shui consultants?
It's really not companies that are looking.
Okay.
Obviously, it's
Okay.
it's it's the individuals within the companies.
Okay.
There are more and more leaders in the business world that are embracing their intuition. They're embracing uh, any opportunity to get that edge over their competitor.
Okay.
A lot of times that does include bringing someone like me in.
Hmm.
I mean, I've worked with like Poopery, Puri now in the Dallas area. I've worked with them
Okay.
before. Actually, probably about 10 years now that we've worked together. I've worked with clothing manufacturers. I've worked with um, currently working with a salon chain, a small salon chain here in
Okay.
the Austin area, because
Interesting.
what happens when the energy of this physical space of the workplace is in balanced and in flow, uh, it then reduces friction, which allows for better employee satisfaction. It
Yeah.
helps with retaining customers. Um, it just reduces friction. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, so now, of course, this next question is going to depend a little bit on a lot of factors, but
Mhm.
according to Google, the average salary for a feng shui consultant is about $63,000. From your experience, do you think that's accurate? What do you think about that number?
It sounds about right, maybe
Okay.
a little on the high side. So before we relocated from the Dallas area, I was actually a little bit higher than that.
Okay.
Whenever you leave an area though, and you move to someplace new, because this is such a personal thing. I mean,
Hmm.
it is an intimate experience when I come in. It takes a little bit to reacquaint and to rebuild your business. And
Okay.
so for I think again, a lot of it depends on how you've structured your business and how you are what your focus is. And for me, I really like the in-depth, very personal approach. There are a lot of other people
Okay.
who are more, I don't know, churn and burn is not the right term. Um, but they're okay with doing a little more superficial
Okay.
treatment of this.
Okay. I see. Yeah. Okay. And now, what are some current trends or challenges in this field, and how do you see it changing in the next 5 to 10 years?
In the 20 years that since I began all of this, I have certainly seen a lot of differences. So
Okay.
in feng shui, there are two major schools of thought. The number one that I began with was a Western version of feng shui. It's very simplified. Everything is laid out the same based on where your
Hmm.
front door is. Just if it's the same cookie cutter um, nine section map that you put on a property.
Okay.
What I did in 2017 was change to the classical version of feng shui, where you're bringing in the a compass, a special compass, and you're actually using the directions.
Okay.
What I feel is going to happen, what is happening right now is there's a lot of people who think they can read one book or watch a few
Mhm.
videos and poof, you're a feng shui master. And I'm sorry, but that's a good start. That is everybody has to start someplace.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like it is doing a grave disservice to whoever the potential client is if you're
Hmm.
not taking it seriously enough to invest in actually going to courses and going places.
Yeah.
I actually was able to go in 2019 before the world shut down. I flew to Malaysia and I studied with
Wow.
the Chinese master that I've been
Oh,
following ever since. Yeah, it's been great because during
that's
during
interesting.
lockdowns, he took all of his classes on Zoom, and so I got
Wow.
to just totally geek out. It was a lot of I can't say fun, but it was incredibly valuable to be
Yeah.
able to learn things that I would never have had the money or time really to go to all those different
Yeah.
courses.
And how do you stay updated with all of the latest developments of your field?
Oh, I'm constantly taking courses.
Okay.
I look for any other additional updates. Uh, Joey Yap is the name of the Chinese master that I've been taking classes from. Um, he offers a variety of other courses in Chinese
Okay.
metaphysics, which again all flow back into through feng shui. Like I've taken courses on the I Ching, which is a divination system. I've taken courses on Bazi, which is the Chinese astrology that kind of wraps around. Like right now, we're in the year of the Yangwood dragon. Many people have heard of that.
Hmm.
That has its roots in the Chinese astrology. That also then has aspects that impact feng shui. Oops. And so that again, and there's more that I can keep learning, as
Yeah.
well as just going back and reviewing what I've already learned. Because
Yeah.
as I said, sometimes different things hit differently, and it could be the same information, and it suddenly makes sense in a whole new way.
Yeah. And since this is such an, I don't want to say old, but it's been around for a long time, like you mentioned before, do you see that there are novelties in the field?
Oh,
Like, do new
absolutely.
things come up? Okay.
So when you say new things, novelties, again, everybody has a different
Okay.
perspective. Um, Not every feng shui consultant agrees
Okay.
on a treatment for a particular issue. Um, that's why it's so important to again, if I'm a big fan of using my physical body as a barometer for, is this appropriate or is this,
Okay.
not the best fit.
Hmm.
For example, one of the things that is a fairly common piece of feng shui knowledge that a lot of folks, have heard about is it's not good to have your bed lined up where the feet will go out through the bedroom door.
Yeah.
Sometimes, in fact, we just moved our daughter to an apartment that she'll be living in for a year in Florida. And that's the only way that her bed could fit in her
Mm,
place. Now,
okay.
good news is she doesn't sleep on that side of the bed. The other good news is she has an automatic protector in the form of her dog, and that's where she just puts her
Mm,
dog bed. So
okay.
and she closes the door. So, is there, is that the best way of doing it? No. But we've remedied it the best way possible.
Yeah,
There are
of
a couple
course.
of other things that, we're still going to work on depending on how she's sleeping.
Yeah.
Um, but other people would have said, "Oh no, that doesn't matter. You have to like push this bed over this way and then practically crawl over it to get to the
Hmm.
bathroom." I look at things from a practical aspect as well as
Okay.
how is energy flowing.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. And now going into your daily work and your tasks as a feng shui consultant, what's your schedule like and what tasks do you spend the majority of your day doing?
Well, the majority of my day is actually spent marketing,
Okay.
making sure that I am sharing information with my with on social media,
Yeah.
so that others can begin to get to know me and begin to feel comfortable with the idea of, oh, this is what you're talking. Okay, I see, I
Yeah.
understand. Oh, there's a sharp. Yeah, I just realized there is a corner that's facing me in my office. Oh, I could put a plant right in front of there to soften that sharp edge
Hmm.
coming at me. Those are a lot of the things that I end up doing. So there's a lot of content creation that happens. Um, but when I do have more clients, a lot of what I am doing is evaluating floor plans.
Hmm.
I am making sure that I'm putting dividing it into the 9 equal sections and getting the
Okay.
facing direction to make sure that the client and I can have a conversation about what part of your space is reacting with which of the sectors of the Bagua map. Um,
Mm,
and then just following up with them to make sure that the to-do list after the consultation, that the to-do
yeah.
list, if they have any questions about it, I'm there to answer them.
Okay. And would you say that this is a flexible job or you
Very.
have to be working for, okay.
Very flexible.
Okay.
Yeah, it fits my personality
Mm,
very well because I'm not exactly the kind of person who enjoys sitting still. And I also don't necessarily thrive on routine. I like
mm,
having certain things at certain times, but I am far more um, comfortable with every day being completely different. And
yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I like this job, but it's also probably part of the reason why sometimes I have more dry spells than not. Um, you
Mm,
know, I think one of the other
yeah.
questions that when you shared this stuff with me is like, if is there a busy time or versus
Yes.
others?
Yes.
And yes, absolutely. Around the end of the year, beginning, like the December, January timeframe. That's when right at that time when everybody's getting ready for the Chinese New Year. Because the
Okay.
Chinese, everything is done on a lunar New Year calendar. Um, the months don't always line up with the Western calendar. So, for
Okay.
example, the energy of the month that we are in right now, which is let me double check again. Yin Metal Goat month. It started actually on July 6th and goes through August 6th.
Mm,
So because it is all based on the moon cycles, um, the New Year, Chinese New Year, does not start on the same day every year. So I
okay.
have to pay attention to when that's coming up because that the energy changes. And
Yeah.
there are things that are beneficial to do prior to that energy shift so that you can, again, it's all about having your catcher's mitt on. How can I get the opportunities
Yeah.
as soon as they're on their way? So yeah,
Yeah.
the end of the year, first part of the new year is always very busy.
Okay. So now going into what it takes to become a feng shui consultant, are certain degrees or certifications truly required to be in a role like this?
So there are no official designated courses that one
Okay.
has to take. As I
Okay.
mentioned, you can just read a couple of books and watch a whole bunch of TikToks and say, "Oh, look at me! I'm a Feng Shui consultant." You certainly can.
Okay.
There are people who have aptitudes for going into a place and noticing when the flow is off. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I I think that's a great thing to do, and I also believe that it's really within it's so important to be able to take the time to take courses, even if they're just online. Start out there's some resources, many different resources to take
Mm-hmm.
courses and just see who you resonate with. That was the thing that, as I said, I've studied with, I said like nine, eight or 9 or 10 different teachers.
Yeah.
Um, there are some who you feel it in your body. I mean, you're in college, you've had teachers where it's like, oh my gosh, you get me, I get you. I'm
Yeah.
just soaking everything up that you are, that you're giving, that you're teaching. And
Yeah.
others, you're just like, okay,
Mm-mm.
white knuckling it through this class because I gotta have it. Um, so you
Yeah.
have to be, that's why it's important to really invest in that, because not only are you investing in your knowledge, but you're also investing, when you're taking a feng shui course, you're investing in your own personal development. Because
Okay.
of course, you're your first client. You are the one who it gets to practice on yourself
Yeah.
and see how things work. And that's where the real juice of it all is.
Yeah. And if you have two different courses that maybe go at a specific topic from different perspectives, how do you manage that? And how do you, I guess, decide which one you like better, if that makes sense?
Um, I will often look at most of the teachers that I have studied with have a presence on YouTube.
Okay.
And so I will look at their videos on YouTube, and I'll look at, some of the shorts, some of the more long form ones,
Hmm.
just to see if I like the pace that they're teaching. Um,
Okay.
and just to kind of see how their approach is. Sometimes um, I always like it when there's a good amount of confidence, but
Yeah.
also a little bit of humility. Because, like it or not, nobody is a feng shui master until
Yeah.
they're in their mid 80s. And at
Wow.
that point, I mean, if I get to my mid 80s, I'll be really happy.
Yeah.
There's so many layers. There's
Exactly.
so many layers. And it's just that's what I
Yeah, I
like
bet.
about it.
Okay. And so now, what are some natural strengths or talents that you think someone should have in order to be a good feng shui consultant?
The first thing is being willing to explore the unknowable.
Okay.
Um, the as I mentioned before when we first started talking, I typically am more of a logical person.
Hmm.
I like to in the past I was very much left brain. Um, I liked lists. I liked
Yeah.
structure. I wanted to know, what was the reason for doing this.
Hmm.
That's one of the reasons why it makes sense to me to have these 9 boxes, because then you can break down what's going on in each space based upon these 9 categories. The
Yeah.
other thing that is very important is um, listening. Some people will say intuition. Um,
Mm.
I really think a lot of, some people are a little bit leery of that word, but I say deep listening. Not only are you listening to your client, but you're also listening and in the observation way to
Yeah.
what is going on in the house. And so
Mm.
a little bit of deep listening or a whole lot of deep listening and a little bit of analysis and logic will go a long way in
Yeah.
this profession.
Okay. And so now, what do you end up thinking about all day what are some topics that you think someone should be really interested in to enjoy this type of job?
What do I think about all day? Food. I mean, one of the things that I really like to do is I like looking at architecture blogs or architectural
Okay.
drawings, photos, like interior design magazines, things like that. Things like that. That where I
Hmm.
can take. So one of the things I like to do with my social media is I will do a screenshot of something and
Okay.
I'll post it on Instagram or Facebook, sometimes on LinkedIn, and and I will highlight this is a great feng shui,
Hmm.
or this is this and this is why. Other times I will look at a picture and I go like, please somebody get this architect some help. This is
Mm.
a cry for help. They need therapy. Um, and in fact, I was just getting ready to share an image when I realized it was time to get on for this. Uh, the it's like the architect did this couple such a bad thing.
Oh,
Yeah, it was not a good thing, and I'm
yeah.
sad for them because it's not an easy fix. I've
Mm.
been working with another client and his architect and landscaper, and because he purchased a property that,
Mhm.
again, when you look at it from
Yeah.
one perspective, you think, "Oh, that's really cool," and then you start looking at it from another perspective, and you realize
Like,
that's why
oh,
nobody wants to come and see you because this just
yeah.
has that "I don't need you, I'm going to attack you" kind of a
Oh,
vibe. Oh yeah,
yeah.
oh yeah. There are some things like really okay.
So now, what are some tools or technologies that you use a lot as part of your job?
Again, a compass. You
Okay.
don't have to buy a real expensive, like Chinese type compass. You can actually use a compass that's on your phone just to see what direction your property is facing. On my
Hmm.
website, I have a I've got a little a link where you can evaluate what direction your
Oh,
property
cool.
is facing. If you're in like a dorm or an apartment, you
Hmm.
can do it from the front of the apartment building, and
Okay.
because that's the how you enter into the space, and then
Right.
use that map and base it, as long as it's facing the front of the apartment building
Interesting.
that you're walking
Yeah.
in. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
I do that a lot. I also, again, I'm constantly using my Bagua maps. Again, that does the map that's in 9 sections.
Hmm.
I don't think I ever mentioned the 9 sectors are career and life path. That's the
Okay.
north. The northeast is skills and knowledge. It's also kind of a secondary wealth sector because it's all about using your skills and knowledge to either get noticed or to make money,
Yeah.
etc. The East is about family and ancestors. That's also about what kind of legacy are you wanting to build.
Hmm.
Southeast is considered the wealth and abundance sector, and that's more about building long-term wealth. It's about, where are you spending your time? What is your value
Yeah.
system around money?
Mm.
The South is fame and reputation. It's like, how do you know what you're hearing is the truth? It's also about
Yeah.
making sure that people are saying what you want about them.
Hmm.
The Southwest is your love and partnership sector. Who are you? And it also includes like a friend group that you're with,
Hmm.
or what
Yeah.
the West is children and creativity, creative problem solving. Um, the Northwest is helpful people and travel. Who are your mentors? How are they helping you get ahead? What
Yeah.
new ideas are you getting from traveling? I mean, it could be just going to the next block. You never know. You might meet somebody there who becomes your new best friend. And then, of
Yeah.
course, as I mentioned before, the center is the health and the balance.
Health.
It's bringing it all together.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. So now, what do you recommend that candidates that are interested in this sort of job do to set themselves apart from other candidates?
Because this is not necessarily a traditional job, I do
Yeah.
think it's very important for people to be comfortable with doing a lot of teaching,
Hmm.
because there really is a lot of familiarization that needs to happen, not only
Okay.
about the feng shui in general, but then also the comfort level that they have with you, because it is, and so how you set yourself apart, it does help to have a little bit more of a focus, an area of focus, especially when you're first are starting out. Um,
Yeah.
my focus has gotten really broad. The aperture is probably a little too wide. I should probably bring it in a little bit more. But again, I've had so many experiences with such a variety of people and situations that it's kind of hard to go back once you've expanded.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a lot about just going on TikTok or YouTube and watching some videos. But what are some books, resources, programs, or courses that you recommend our listeners look into if they're interested in this type of role?
Absolutely. So of all things, The Idiot's Guide to Feng Shui is actually
Okay.
I mean, it's older. I don't know when they've revised it, but it
Mhm.
actually has a lot of easy to understand. It really goes through things easy, quickly and in a way that
Okay.
is approachable. Um, I personally, again, I mentioned my teacher, Joey Yap,
Mhm.
and YAP. I think his style is just irreverent enough that it keeps things interesting. There
Okay.
are so many people out there who like to take themselves way too seriously. Life is not here for us to constantly be super serious.
Mhm.
Also, um, the one thing I would suggest is if people are looking around at things, I, because I started out in a Western version, a Western mindset of feng shui, I want to just spare people the missteps or the potential for doing adding more roadblocks. I'll just put it that way. It's
Okay.
not that you're doing damage, but you're just adding more roadblocks
Yeah.
than are necessary. I would not do any of the Western version feng shui things. So that will come across as black hat. It's called
Okay.
black hat Tibetan Buddhism. There are still a lot of good things that can come through that.
Mhm.
Um, but because it is so cookie cutter, you especially for someone who has a south facing house. I know that we're starting to get really into the weeds here, but for anybody who's listening and is really wanting to go forward, if you are having a south facing property and you're trying to use this westernized version of feng shui on that, you are adding more roadblocks to your life. That
Okay.
was what I was doing. That was my exact
Mm.
situation. And it is what made me realize I had to retrain myself
Mm.
because of all of the challenges that were happening in my
Wow.
life, and not just my life, but my family's life. And so that's my only
Okay.
suggestion.
So now, what are some other fields that are somewhat similar to this that listeners might be interested in?
So some people have commented that organizational psychology has some elements of this because again, the way I approach feng shui, it's pretty logical. I look at it as it's got to, if it's not practical, then it's poor feng shui.
Yeah.
Um, there are design, those who are going into design, whether it's architecture or interior design, um, the biophilic design, bringing nature into the interior spaces, especially in commercial properties, is very
Yeah.
good about incorporating a lot of the natural world in it. Um,
Yeah.
and there's another term, and I'm so sad I cannot come up with it. Um, but again, it's been a long time since I've been in college, and there's so many new majors out there
Yeah.
that are incorporating um, more of the marriage between how a place feels as well as how it looks.
Yeah.
Um, Even something as like when you're designing a website, you can actually use a lot of these same type of principles. And now I
Hmm.
can't remember how what the word is where you are like how your eye tracks on the website, where it directs you. I know.
Okay.
um
No worries.
it's yeah, but that would be something that's a little bit more traditional, that
Okay.
could incorporate some of these. philosophies.
Okay. And now, if you could talk to your younger self, or maybe 20 years ago when you were just starting off with the feng shui career, what advice would you give her?
Honestly, I'm not sure that I would change my trajectory.
Okay.
The reason why is because anything with energy, I was always very skeptical.
Hmm.
Again, I was such a tangible oriented individual. If I couldn't see it, touch it, taste it, feel it, um, uh, physically, it didn't exist. And
Okay.
and so having that experience of starting out in a less effective school, a less effective, uh, you know, study,
Hmm.
I would not have believed the difference between
Yeah.
the one school versus the other.
Yeah.
I also met so many wonderful people along the way. I've got a philosophy that there's never a wrong step. There's merely the longer path. And
Hmm.
sometimes the longer path is the most interesting.
I love that. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Um, yeah, so now finally, where can people reach out to you and where can they follow along with your work?
I am my website is theintuitiveinterior.com.
Okay.
I am on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and LinkedIn, all under the Intuitive Interior. Um, and that again is singular interior. Uh,
Okay.
they can find me there, and I would love it if people would reach out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you my cell phone. Actually, why don't you email's probably better. But it's Beverly at theintuitiveinterior.com.
Okay.
And I'd certainly
Perfect.
love to connect and help answer any questions.
Amazing. All right. Well, Beverly, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing all of your experience.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
You just got one episode closer to learning about the world of jobs out there. To explore the rest of our career categories and find your best fit, go to jobdictionary.com to sign up for the beta users waitlist. Then subscribe here to find the next episodes coming out this week. And as always, drop us a comment, review, or message to let us know how we can better attune our episodes to your specific needs. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Threads, Pinterest, and wherever else you're on socials to go get our short, snappy preview reels that expose you to new job options every day. Because here at Job Dictionary, we believe your big aha moment can be just one scroll away. Go check it out and get out there. Cheers!